TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store, and Yaesu Muse & Co. Japan.
Hello, I'm Mike Marsh, G1IAR, and welcome to the TX Factor, the UK's first TV show dedicated entirely to amateur radio. I'm at the RSGB National Radio Centre in Bletchley Park, home of the Enigma code breakers from the Second World War. Radio geniuses from back in the day. Today though, we're going to meet some radio geniuses from the 21st century, and you're going to find out who they are in just a moment.
Also, in this episode of TX Factor, we take a close look at Yaesu's new FTDX1200. Mike tries his hand at home brewing at the Bath Buildathon, and we get a guided tour of the RSGB's National Radio Centre at Bletchley Park. Lots of you commented on the stunning scenery in our last episode. Well, this time it's a backdrop of pre-war brick buildings, where Mike will reveal the first of our genius guests.
In 1944, the world's first electronic computer was used here to help the Lorenz codebreakers decipher secret radio messages from the German High Command to their officers throughout occupied Europe. Although extremely complex and impressive for its time, this valve-powered giant had only a fraction of the power of our modern-day computers. I just wonder what Colossus designer Tommy Flowers would have made of our 21st century tablets and smartphones. Here at Bletchley Park, not far from the Colossus rebuild itself, Mike's been joined by Howard Long, inventor of the FUNcube Dongle, a small yet amazingly powerful receiver sold in its thousands. Its prime function is to act as the ground station device that receives telemetry data from the recently launched AMSAT FUNcube Satellite, which is just about to appear over the horizon.
So we're outside in the car park at Bletchley Park right now, and it's T-minus around about 2 minutes. We're going to try and see whether we can receive a signal from the FUNcube satellite actually in the back of Howard Long's car on the wet and windy forecourt in the car park here.
So what we're looking at here is we have a screen showing the satellite track, and we're expecting it to come into view overhead in the next few seconds.
What we got?
I've got about 37 seconds until it's going to start coming overhead, and then we've got about it looks like about 13 minutes, nearly 14 minutes while it's actually overhead above the horizon, and we'll be able to pick up some of the data and be able to hear the satellite.
We're probably about a minute away from receiving a signal, I guess. 10:48 was our pass time. I've got 10:48 now on the watch.
What you'll probably find for the first minute or two is that you'll just be able to hear the hash, and then we'll be able to hear, rather than just the hash that you can hear in the background, we'll be able to hear a little beep every 5 seconds.
What we're going to be receiving on this pass, is it telemetry data?
Yes, it's telemetry data. So during the night, we actually switch the mode of the satellite into being a voice transponder, and what that means is that radio amateurs across the world can talk to each other using their voice across there without having to use data. So that's one of the things that's quite neat, is that not only is it available for people to be able to learn about space and technology by receiving the data and telemetry. I just heard the first beep there from the satellite, but also we have the radio amateur aspect of it. So if we can just hear now, you'll be able to hear it beeping every now and again.
Now when the signal, at the moment, you can hear it's still quite hashy, it's quite noisy. As the satellite is getting closer to us, the signal that we hear, the level of the beep, the level of the noise, will become louder and clearer.
The signal becomes stronger, and so the noise level will drop, and you'll be able to hear that characteristic beep, which comes every 5 seconds, a lot louder. And that means that you're much more likely to be able to receive some of the telemetry data from the satellite itself. We just got our first data frame from the satellite, and another one, a second one coming in, and what we can actually see, all of the telemetry information. So you can see the temperature at the antennas, so that's minus 3.9 Celsius and minus 5 Celsius. So depending on which face of the satellite, there'll be a different temperature, because one might have been facing the sun and the other one is facing away. And there's other information here. We can see the amount of transmit power that's being used. We can also see the voltage that's coming from the solar panels here. So the whole raft of information here which we can use to see the status of the satellite.
What can I do to get a timetable together so that I'm not sat outside in the wind and the rain waiting for something to happen?
So what we can do for that is we have software which you can use. You can either run it on your computer, or there are websites that do it, or indeed, of course, on your trusty smartphone, you can also have an application which does it. So that means that it's fairly easy now to be able to get the prediction of when the satellite's going to be over, and you can also get a list of the passage. So you can predict fairly accurately, several days or even weeks in advance, when that might be convenient for you. And every day it does change.
All right, so we got it to work, Howard, which was great,
Yeah.
and very simply as well. Basically, we had the FUNcube dongle,
That's right.
a laptop,
Yes.
and an antenna on the roof of the car.
Yeah, just a small quarter wave antenna.
Okay. Now, you can even use a handset, right?
That's right. Yeah, what we've demonstrated here was a low-end solution, so that just with a simple, what we call a quarter wave antenna, just 19 inches, on a mag mount, sat on top of the car, we can receive the satellite, we can see telemetry, we can decode messages, which is great. But you'll find that actually, as you go further, you may want more information from the satellite. And we managed to get a dozen or so frames with this small setup here. But actually you'll find that with a bigger antenna, more specialised antenna, you'll find that actually you can receive many more signals. And actually on that same pass we just had a colleague of mine also in the car park, and he managed to pick up around about 10 times more frames than I did, and he's using an antenna which is called a turnstile. And that sort of antenna is probably not the sort of one you want to put on the top of your car, but on the other hand, it's quite a simple antenna. You don't need to point it, you just have it pointing up in the air, that's it. So you don't need to follow the satellite as it moves around. Again, both of the antennas that we've used today, they just sit there. You don't have to point them anywhere particular. You just set them up and that's it.
Fantastic. That shows you how simple it is to pick up the FUNcube satellite with a very, very simple setup. Right now though, with this wind blowing around, I think it's time to go and warm up. We're going to go indoors because we've got around about 1 hour, 10 minutes until the next pass.
Hi, I'm Bob McCready, G0FGX, and I'm snug and warm here inside the National Radio Centre at Bletchley Park. And it's great to see that FUNcube dongle in action outside, and to think what a worldwide sensation that tiny technological marvel has become, as Martin Lynch has been telling me.
Howard has made a major contribution to communication receiving, not only in the UK but all over the world. And I must say it makes me very proud to be British, that a British fellow has actually designed and he really has invented this, and he's kept very much ahead of any competition that's attempted to bring out similar products. The best feature is it is designed and built in Britain and invented by Howard Long, and for that, Howard, I thank you lots, as indeed tens of thousands of users all around the world would say the same thing.
So now I'm very excited to meet two of the key members of the FUNcube project. We're lucky enough to have with us today Graham Sherville, and Graham is the technical manager of the FUNcube Satellite project, and Howard Long, who is the inventor of the FUNcube dongle. So Graham, how did the FUNcube Satellite project actually begin?
It started about 4 years ago. AMSAT UK had a bequest from a deceased radio amateur that gave us some money to put towards building a small spacecraft with intended for educational outreach. So we had to have a mission that had got amateur communications as part of the mission, but the primary part of the mission was educational outreach to get young people interested in not just amateur radio, but the acronym now STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematical subjects.
So you've got the idea of the satellite project underway. The next thing I suppose you need is a ground station. So they came and said to you, what kind of a ground station could we use? What made you think dongle?
This is actually version 2 of the dongle, and this was our original concept. And in fact, one of the things as a radio amateur I find is that normally what you do is you put all the parts together and then you put it in a box, whereas this was a little bit the other way around. So the first thing I did was I bought a few enclosures, and I knew we wanted to have it in this format as a USB stick, and bought about 4 or 5 of these, and all different shapes and sizes. And so, well, how can I actually fit all the parts in? And it was trying to squeeze all of this into a board. And the only modification I had to do is to drill the hole. So I have a little jig at home and a drill press, and when I have one of those sort of boring times, I sit there and work the drill press.
Holes.
Yes,
the least exciting and glamorous part of the whole project.
Yes, but I'm doing quite well now. I can drill 1,000 holes in about an hour and 20 minutes. So and they're generally in the right place as well.
So we've got the dongle project underway, but presumably for you, Graham, at this time your team is very busy developing the actual FUNcube Satellite.
There were a number of challenges. Getting the various bits designed and built, and the biggest one was actually getting the launch. And the project took 4 years. I suppose really the design and development of the hardware and the software for the space segment, as it's called, probably took about 2 years. So we had an extra 2-year waiting period to get a launch, because we were a secondary payload. We weren't paying, in their eyes, much money, so we couldn't demand when the launch took place.
I suppose, Graham, that one of the really important things about this project has been the miniaturisation. The dongle is very small and easy to use, but the satellite itself is pretty tiny, and you've got a FUNcube Satellite model here, which is almost real size, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just about the full size model. It's just a photocube actually. So, but it's 100 millimeters cube, a CubeSat, a 1U CubeSat. The real one has got small aerials sticking out from one face. But that is the size of the actual spacecraft. It's currently going through space at 600 kilometers above the surface of the Earth at 17,500 and about 82 miles an hour. 17,582 miles per hour. That's 7.5 kilometers a second.
Now, this started as a kitchen table project.
That's right, yeah.
What serial number are you up to now? You thought you'd sell 100.
Yeah, I thought I'd sell 100 and was scratching my head and concerned about actually, putting all those parts on for 100. I wasn't looking forward to that at all. And we're currently up to serial number 17,000, and which was not what I expected.
Graham, you said that the reason for the project at the beginning was as an educational outreach for amateur radio and radio in space. So you've now got your dongle, you've got your satellite is up there in orbit and is a fantastic success. So where is the project now?
Well, the satellite is up there and working. The telemetry, all the telemetry channels are working. The data is coming down using the dongle, which self-installs into any laptop. You don't need any funny drivers.
So that's very important with the target audience, because
Absolutely.
You want this to go into schools. Teachers who may have had no experience of amateur radio have got to be able to set this up and get this working without having to phone a helpline every 2 minutes.
Yes, that's right. We've got a website which gives lots of guidance. It describes the antennas, the simple antennas that are necessary, and you've seen that just a small whip on the roof of the headmaster's car will still bring in some signals from high angle passes, and we're developing with a number of different educational groups and teams the complete teachers' notes and teachers' guidance notes and lesson plans, and we're working towards getting FUNcube actually into the A-level curriculum on some of the exam boards, and also at GCSE level, and for schools' science clubs, and it's useful for all manner of different subjects within schools, not just the STEM subjects.
Well, thanks very much for telling us about the project, guys. And I think on behalf of all radio amateurs, we have to say thank you, because lots of people have good ideas. But what these guys did is they turned that idea with other team members into a reality, and it's taken a lot of hard work. But now the FUNcube Satellite project and the FUNcube Dongle are both absolute worldwide phenomenon. And I think on behalf of all radio amateurs around the world, we have to say thanks very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you'd like to find out more information on the FUNcube Dongle and the FUNcube Satellite, see our show notes at txfactor.co.uk, where you can learn how to start receiving signals from space and how the data you receive from FUNcube is shared with the world via the FUNcube Data Warehouse. Well, Mike Marsh is not quite up to building a satellite, but we sent him off to try his hand at constructing a simple 14 MHz data receiver at the Bath Buildathon, and we'll find out how he got on in just a moment. There's a Yaesu radio to suit the interests of every kind of ham, and you can see the whole range at Martin Lynch & Sons. Our expert staff can help you choose the Yaesu that's right for you, whether your passion is portable operating
Mobile or DXing, Yaesu have a radio to suit your interests and your budget. Whatever kind of ham you are, Yaesu have the radio for you. You'll find them all at the best prices, backed by our legendary customer service at Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store.
Welcome to the Scout headquarters in Bath on a cold, wet and rainy January morning. Home of the RSGB Buildathon today, where lots of people have arrived with their soldering irons and empty circuit boards, looking a little bit like this, which hopefully after a period of time, they're going to turn into this. Soldering irons, tools, circuit boards and all the components needed are supplied, along with the ever so useful tea, coffee and biscuits. But what's going to be constructed?
This is the board you're going to be building. It's the PSK 20 metre receiver that hopefully you all read about in Radcom. You've got the PCBs already. What we're going to do is give you the bits in 3 stages. So build one stage, test it, make sure it works, and then move on to the next stage.
Now in its 7th year, the Bath Buildathon attracts builders from all corners of the UK and beyond. Not all are experienced amateurs though, and some are yet to even start out on their foundation course. Ages range from those with grey beards to enthusiastic youngsters, like 13-year-old Henry from Bath.
So we're building a radio transmitter, receiver, sorry.
Okay.
And so I'm just on the part which is the demodulator.
Okay.
At the moment.
And how's it going? It's looking pretty good,
yeah,
actually.
It's going good at the moment.
I'll analyse your soldering technique and your quality of component installation. It's looking pretty good. So how long will this take you to make?
Well, I'm on the second part right now, so I think maybe another hour, maybe 3 more hours-ish.
Okay, and then once you've made it all, alongside everybody else who's also making stuff busy at the tables here, do you get to test it out? Will you actually?
Yeah, well, there's some computers over there which we'll go test it out.
Okay.
So, and then hopefully we'll be able to use it if it all works.
Well, I'm having a go at this centenary receiver.
Okay.
Of the 4 of us on the table, it turns out I'm slightly more experienced. I'm not that experienced, slightly more experienced, but I appear to be the only one at the moment that has managed to put the wrong component in the wrong hole. And the most ambitious things I ever did recently was through the Cray Valley Radio Society. Their club project for the past year was a 4-metre transverter, which I really fancied having a go at.
Okay.
So I completed a 4-metre transverter, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It took a while to build.
Yeah.
But I did make the odd mistake, and that too had plated through.
Okay.
But I did manage to salvage the situation there, but I'm struggling with this at the minute.
Right.
But, no, it's a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon,
Absolutely,
I can tell you.
Yeah. So I'm joined by Steve, G0FUW, on a wet, soggy, damp January morning. What is going on here?
Most of them are building a project for their intermediate practical assessment. We've been running courses for the intermediate for a long time, and the big question was always, what is it that we're going to build as a project? And we could never really sort of pin that down. And one year we decided, right, we're going to stop messing about. You're going to come into a room on a day, build a project, and that's it, it's done. And we've also got 2 people who are not licensed radio amateurs who have just heard about this and thought, I'll give it a go and see whether I'm interested. And hopefully today will give them a spark of enthusiasm to get on and do a licence.
So when you're building one of these, Steve, does this actually contribute towards your intermediate qualification?
I think there's about 15 people here today who are doing exactly that. Because the requirement is to demonstrate good solder joints, which clearly building a circuit like this, they can do that. There's a requirement to build a project, this meets that bill, and they go away with something that's actually quite useful to be able to receive signals off air and get an introduction to data communications as well. So there are other things they have to do, but that's the reason for doing this project today.
So this is one of the boards that was built today at the Buildathon.
It is indeed, yeah.
Fantastic, working straight away. Let's just see whether we've got a signal.
We have.
Something's popping up on the waterfall, which is obviously the display of a digi signal coming in, or at least intelligent words appearing on the screen.
Right, there's a call sign there that's transmitting back to him on virtually the same frequency. So now they're starting to have a bit of a two-way dialogue.
What do you get?
Well, somebody's left their board behind, so I'm going to have this. All I need is a 9-volt battery, and I'm on the air. That's it from the Bath Buildathon 2014. I'm going to get out of here quick. One of these. I bet I can get this to work.
Well, here I am at the National Radio Centre at Bletchley Park, Milton Keynes, and Graham Parry is here to show me around. Graham, nice to meet you. Now, you're one of the support team here.
That's correct. There's myself and Andy, my partner in crime, M0GYK, who is also the other half of the support team.
Now, anybody can come in and visit the centre. To go into Bletchley Park itself, you have to pay, but it's totally free to come into the National Radio Centre.
If you're a visiting radio amateur, for the moment, all you have to do is say that you're coming here, as long as you're not visiting the rest of the park. Entrance here is always free.
The reason for the centre being here is obviously it's of interest to existing radio amateurs, but this is to show radio to people who maybe don't know about the hobby and don't know about the history of radio.
That's correct. The purpose of the NRC is to explain radio, the development of radio over the years, and how it affects our lives today in a large number of ways.
So the purpose of the audio-visual presentation is to give people a bit of an overview of just how much radio there is in their everyday lives.
Yes, it's surprising. Even in your mobile phone, there are 5 separate individual transceivers, each doing a separate job.
So the next thing we see as we come in here, Graham, is this fabulous board which has a timeline of the history of radio.
Yes, radio initially started in the 1890s with the experiments of Heinrich Hertz, Oliver Lodge, Nikolai Tesla.
So we've got here on the timeline from those very beginnings, the 1901 transatlantic radio communication, which we talked about in a previous episode of TX Factor, right through to satellite communication and mobile phones.
Yes, indeed, right the way up to the International Space Station.
So when we look at some of the early radios, like this one, tell us, what does this do, first of all?
This is a circa 1920s amateur radio setup. It's valves, Morse key, crystal type receiver.
It's even got a loudspeaker though, so it's quite
yes.
posh for its day.
Oh,
but
yes.
It doesn't look anything like a 21st century
no,
radio hams kit, does it?
The principles remain the same, but the technology for achieving radio reception, radio communication have changed quite
So
markedly.
It works the same way, but the kit looks very different. We can see that as we go further down and look at some of these other exhibits.
Yes, we can.
Now, I absolutely love this, Graham. That is a very big bit of kit. What have we got here in this display case?
In this display case, we have an early transmitter and its associated modulator
So
unit.
this is an AM transmitter.
Yes.
How much power does that run?
About 100 watts.
So in order to modulate 100 watts of AM, you need 100 watts of modulation, hence the modulator's as big as the transmitter.
The modulator's as big as the transmitter.
Right. So then we move up to the age of single sideband.
Yes.
Now, I used to have one of these, a KW2000, and that's the very first KW transceiver for SSB in one package made in the UK.
Yes, specifically for amateur radio use.
Now, the next part of the gallery is very hands-on and interactive,
Yes,
so let's have a look here. First of all, this is very impressive, a complete display of the radio spectrum.
Yes, it is very useful for explaining to members of the public how the spectrum is divided up into various bands, from low frequency right the way up to extremely high frequencies.
And underneath it, all these various screens, what do they do, Graham?
These are all interactive touch screens. You can touch a screen and it will explain this, the topic that's displayed on the screen.
So these are all illustrations of the fundamentals of radio. For example, this one, how radio waves travel. So we click on that.
Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic radiation.
And we get our personal bit of tuition on that. And there's all different subjects, presumably
Yes.
covered by the different interactive screens that you've
Yes,
got down here.
yes.
Now, this is what I always like when I come into any kind of an exhibition, is knobs to twiddle and buttons to push. So
Yes.
what have we got here, Graham?
Well, we have knobs to twiddle and buttons
to push.
First one demonstrates resonance, one of the prime principles of radio operation, the resonance circuit. Here we have an inductor, capacitor, a signal source, and we can tune the signal source.
All right.
Now, the tuned circuit is now resonating at 12 megahertz, where the signal source is being fed from.
And in here, the bit I've been really looking forward to, having to go on your radios and your big step IR antenna here. So we'll do that in a moment or two. And it's a good part of the demonstration, isn't it, that had a real impact on one visitor that you had here?
Yes, it did. A gentleman came along with his wife and children. We gave him the tour, and then he disappeared inside the radio room. I carried on talking to his wife and children, explaining various bits of radio technology, and after about 10 minutes he came rushing out, eyes wide open, pointed into the radio room and said, "I want some of that."
And that is really why the National Radio Centre is here, to engender that spark in people who previously didn't know what this hobby was all about. So well done with that conversion. Let's hope there's many more. I think Mike's going to be the lucky man who gets to have a go at the radios, but let's go in and have a look.
Yes.
And we'll be rejoining Mike later to see how he gets on after our rig review, and that's coming up next.
Flex Radio Systems of the USA provide the radio ham with the very best in advanced SDR transceiver technology. From the small and compact Flex 1500 right through to their flagship Flex 6700 series, Flex Radio have a software-defined radio to suit everyone. The benchmark Flex 6700 flagship is a true game changer, offering performance and features unrivaled in the world of SDR. The entire range of Flex Radio products are available from any authorised Flex Radio dealer around the world. Martin Lynch & Sons have the range on permanent demonstration via 3 42-inch screens at their UK showroom. For more information, see www.hamradio.co.uk/Flex Radio.
One of the most exciting things for any radio amateur is getting your hands on a new radio, which is why I'm really excited to be getting a first look at Yaesu's new baby, the FTDX1200. And Steve from Martin Lynch & Son is here to show it to us. So there's a longer feature about this that you've been preparing that's going to be on the Martin Lynch & Son's website. So you've had one of these to play with for a couple of weeks. What do you think of the radio now?
One of the things that I really like about it is the actual screen. As with most rigs these days, they are very much menu driven. And this one, compared with earlier predecessors, the menu system on this is very, very easy to use.
With some radios, if you want to make even a fairly simple adjustment to the radio, you've got to go through a whole tree of menus, haven't you? Is that the case with this radio?
They have basically, or this has basically 3 levels of menu. You have very, very frequently accessed on and off switches down the left-hand side here. And then there is a set of other menu systems. If I go here, we should be able to see it. So along the bottom here, we have things where you can change the noise, set up the noise reduction, things like that. So that's the basic ones that's on a day-to-day basis that you're going to be using. There is an extensive menu system. By pressing the menu button here, you'll see a whole long list of different sorts of things, TX bandwidth, but in that menu system there are things that you only have to adjust once.
How is it? Do you have to be sat right in front of it to be able to see it properly, or can you get quite a wide angle of vision on it?
Nope, it's perfect, I would say. From my point of view, I can see the main display from right up here, and I'm almost vertical. Yeah, so from over here, yeah, it's very clear, very easy to read.
And is it fairly easy to see what you're adjusting? Yeah, because, for example, absolutely. In the FT2000, which I've got, you've got all the adjustments in the menus, but as you go through it, it's
They're cryptic.
Yeah, it's just a load of numbers.
That's right, it's a load of numbers. And I have the same problem with my 1000. But so this is why I say it's so much easier to use. With this, you know exactly what you're doing. It's very easy if you want to go and, say, adjust the TX power. You can just go scroll down using the, I think it's number 180 something or other. It's in there. You press the select button, you change the power, press the select, you're done. And that's it.
For amateurs who've been around a while, like me, we look at this and go, well, that's not a real S meter.
I agree with you, but from my 1000 experience, I have a digital meter, and the good thing about this is you can set it to whichever one you want.
Okay, let's have a look at the connectors on the back then and get an idea of what you can hook up to this radio.
Well, obviously we have 2 antenna ports. You have over here the micro-tune options.
And this is the same as was available for the FT2000, FT5000?
5000, they are indeed. There's 3 options available, exactly the same as what's used on those other rigs. 160 metres, and then I think it's 40 and 30, and then 20 and so on. We have connections for such as the linear amplifier, external tuner, if you have it, Ritian data port, you have your PTT lines and a record functionality there. And over here we have the RS232, RS432 data port.
But some rigs now are coming with USB connectors,
Correct, yes. If you have that need, you can actually buy a USB interface unit, and then it'll just work exactly the same with your USB.
It's pretty straightforward, really. In many ways, it's quite a simple rig.
It's very simple, and that's what I like about it. Although it's simple, it's actually very high performance. Audio quality is superb, receiver performance is superb.
Thanks, Steve, for showing us Yaesu's new baby, the FTDX1200. And if you want to find out more about the capabilities of this radio, they are going to be putting up a long video on the Martin Lynch & Sons website, which will tell you much more about all the various functions. But Steve, thanks very much for this overview.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're nearly coming to the end of our piece at the National Radio Centre, but right now I'm in the control centre itself of the radio room, and I'm here with Pete, who's going to tell me exactly what you've got to do to have a go on the radio station here at GB3RS.
Well, as long as you're a licensed amateur and you're in the call book and we can verify who you are, you're free to work the radios here under supervision. We're open Thursday, Fridays, Saturday, Sundays and bank holidays from 11 o'clock to 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening.
Can you bring the kids?
Absolutely, yeah. We allow children to use the radios as well under supervision. And if they get too boisterous in here, there's plenty of things outside to play with.
Fantastic. So actually you don't need to be a licensed ham to have a go on the radio station?
No, anyone can pass greetings messages over the radio. We have school trips in here with young children, and we always let them get on the radio here and pass messages to other amateurs around the world.
All right, we're going to get a go to play on the radios in a moment, which I can't wait to do. That's almost it for another episode of the TX Factor. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. If your clubs or you personally are doing anything that you think the rest of the amateur radio world would love to hear about, we'd love to hear from you. We're here for you. You tell us, we'll tell the rest of the world. So I've been itching to get my hands on the radio all day here now, so I'm going to put the headphones on and see if we can put out a CQ call using the GB3RS call sign. First of all, though, I better check whether the frequency's in use. A GB3RS Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra. Is the frequency in use, please? Nothing heard. Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra. GB3RS Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra. GB3RS Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra calling CQ. 3 Romeo Sierra. GB3RS Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra calling CQ, 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 and listening. Nobody there. Nobody wants to talk to me. Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra. GB3RS Golf Bravo 3.
TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store, and Yaesu Muse & Co. Japan.